All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is the Dewey Beach Finance Committee meeting. It is Monday, December 16th at 5:01 p.m. And we will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right now, we'll do the committee roll call. Okay. Dennis Trencher. Not here. Bernie Kraus.
Here.
John Gebhardt.
Here.
Here, there. Michael Schaefer. Not here. Mark Mayer.
Here.
Vinny Susie, I see he's dialed in. Dominic Prestipino, he is not here, he's got a conflict today. Eric Nelson.
Here.
Manuel Ramel. Nope. Zeke. No. Suzanne Evans. Is a no. But we do have a quorum. So we will proceed. First, I have a motion to adopt today's agenda.
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, and then also we need to approve, we do approve the October 10th meeting minutes. I have a motion to approve those.
I wrote them, but I'll say yeah.
They're posted online. I realize I just should have
Yeah.
sent them out and not done it by, independent study. We could be more proactive.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Excellent. All right, next, do we have any public comments? I don't see anybody on that from the public. All right, then we'll go on. So what I want to do quickly is, I'm new to the committee, and I think we have some other new committee members. So I just wanted to kind of go around and make sure everybody knows each other and their background, and we can make this really quick. But I'm Iris Curtis, and I recently retired. I live over on Bellevue Street and also in Northern Virginia. And I don't know if we need to tell background. That's who I am. We can just go on.
I'm Mark Mayer, live on Bellevue Street on the Bayside. Live here full time.
And then Eric.
Eric Jones.
Eric Nelson, I've been coming here off and on for 40, 50 years. A kid now, live over on Jersey Street, split my time between there and Rockland Mountain.
Nice.
Bernie Kraus, born 1999, and down here about half-time, living across the Maryland.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And then on the line we have Vinny is our new member. Would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, we don't have audio.
We can't hear you, Vinny.
All right. Well, welcome, Vinny. And then John Gebhardt.
I'm John Gephardt. Our family has a house on Dickinson Avenue. Been coming there. Goes way back to the early 1900s. Family lives in Baltimore, and I guess I'm coming over from the budget committee to join in the merger of the two committees.
Wonderful. So we have a seasoned hand, and then we have Paul and Elizabeth, our commissioner liaisons, also on the line, I see. And then another John, I'm not sure. All right.
Hey, Iris, it's Vinny. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm having some challenges here with the connection. Excuse me. I've been a visitor of Dewey Beach since the 1980s. I live full time in Middletown, Delaware, but we were fortunate enough to buy a condo about 5 years ago, right there at Marina View. And very happy to be here and look forward to helping out.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. So, did I miss anybody? I think we're all set. So thank you. And I'm really excited for us to all work together and put together the two committees going forward. Next on our agenda is to go through the financial reports with Sheena and Bill. And what we had talked about doing today is maybe let them give us an overview and then perhaps try to deep dive into the expenditures, since that's where there's sort of some wish lists and kind of let's understand where all the money has to go, because I think with the revenue, and then decide what kind of gap we might have with revenue, and then when we get together for the budget workshop in January, we can identify questions and things and kind of go that way, and just kind of see how far we can get today, respecting people's time. I don't want to be here till 10 p.m. I don't think. She didn't have to work till. I don't. I'm retired now as of December 6th, but everybody else does. So is that?
Yeah, I'm Bill
Makes sense
Zolper. I'm the town manager. I really want to thank everybody for being on the committee. Thank you for your time. Sheena Hall is our finance/HR supervisor for the town. So we have many employees that wear different hats that do more than one job in the town. So again, thank you for doing this. And as you know, there's only a few things that the commissioners can actually increase for revenue. There's basically only four of those. One is parking, and that has to do with what people pay to park in town, the fines, the parking season, which right now is May 15th through September 15th. So that has to do with parking. And then the other one are business licenses and rental licenses. And then it's building applications and building fees. Those are the four things that the commissioners can really control. Anything else, so for example, I'll throw out there the rental accommodations tax. So in Dewey Beach, an accommodations tax, which is the rental tax that somebody pays to the town when they rent their place out, is 3%. Between Lewis and Fenwick Island, Dewey Beach at 3% is the lowest. The next lowest is at 6%, and then there's 7% and 8% for the towns that are around us. But that can only be changed through a referendum, and then it needs to go to the state legislature to be approved. A property tax is another one that would have to go through a referendum. Public safety impact fee is another thing that would have to go to a referendum. So we're really limited when we talk about revenue coming in and where the revenue would come from to really those four things that I mentioned. So I think it's important, as Ira said, that we look at where the expenses are, and then what expenses you feel as the Budget Finance Committee you should recommend to the commissioners, and where that revenue should come from to pay for those expenses. And as Sheena explains the budget to you, most of our expenses here that you're looking at possibly for the 2026 draft budget is really in salaries. And when I say salaries, it's for our police department, right? When we have 25,000 people here on a weekend. And it's for our year-round employees. It's for our lifeguards, who are the lowest paid lifeguards right now between Lewis and Fenwick Island at $17 an hour. State parks are paying 20. Rehoboth's proposing 21 this year. We're proposing 19. That's one of our proposals. Our parking folks, we're also looking at our parking ambassadors going to 19. And remember, our parking ambassadors are important because about 1.9% of our $1.9 million of our revenue coming in is from parking. So if you don't have the parking ambassadors out there, informing the people, educating the people about parking here in Dewey Beach, we're not going to have that revenue coming in. And then the other revenue, or the other expenditures are our summer police officers. We budget for 14 summer officers. Those are mostly, young adults that go through a month-long training period so they can come help our year-round police officers during the summer. And really, those are our big expenses when it comes to it. As you go through what Sheena put out for you on the draft, you'll see where those expenses have increased to try to keep up with the surrounding towns. And again, for surrounding towns, it's a little easier for them. They can just go to their commissioners sometimes and they raise a property tax to pay for that. Rehoboth's looking at extending their parking from May 1st to October 31st. Those are different ways some of the towns around us are looking at raising revenue. And with that, if it's okay, I'll turn it over to Sheena.
Okay. This budget it looks like a lot of information. When I got here 7 years ago, it was just one spreadsheet, and it's now much larger, but it gives a lot more information. You've got 5 years worth of data, and current year through from April 1st through November 30th of this year. You also have an amended budget that I'm proposing for the commissioners for this Friday. It is a best practice in government accounting that when your expenses exceed what you projected, or your revenues do not meet your projection, they're under. Right now, our expenses are higher than our projection due to our revenues actually exceeding what we projected. So we spent more due to grants coming in. We get the grants in, we spend more money. So the best practice is you do a budget amendment to make it look like you know what you're doing at the beginning of the year. That's basically what it is. We do the budget amendment in December after all our major revenue streams come in, because our last major revenue stream comes in October, which is our accommodations tax. So doing this, I do this amendment, I say, okay, we need to adjust these. In the budget amendment that'll come out on Friday, it has the grants in it. You do not see that on this because this does not have the grants. What you have in front of you is just what we need to run the town. Not buying anything extra, just to run the town on the bare bones. To pay the employees, to keep the utilities running, to keep the vehicles running. Not buy anything new. Not buy any new equipment, not buy any new supplies, just keep us running through the season. That's all we're doing. Now, we will buy the parking permits that we need. We will buy the paper we need to print out, the business licenses, things like that. But we're not buying a new lawnmower. We're not buying, a new lawnmower is in here, but we're not buying a new vehicle, things like that. So what I did is I looked at the past 5 years worth of revenues to see where things were going. And then I did the same thing with expenses. Now, the payrolls, besides the police contract, which states what our officers below chief make, that is a set amount, and our police chief and town manager in their contracts have a certain amount. The rest, town manager told me what percentage he wanted to give everybody. So that's in there. The benefits, that we are very blessed. The town pays 100% benefits premium for the employees and their dependents. Luckily, the state is only increasing it by 5% this year. Over the past couple of years, it's been much higher. So based on salary, I was able to determine pension and taxes. So those kind of, and workers' comp, all those kind of based on salary, basic formula.
What's the percentage of what they call, the OECs, basically, like if you make a certain amount of money, is there a certain kind of percentage, like 0.33% of somebody's annual salary is what you would typically pay in that pot of money that goes to benefits Medicare, all that stuff.
The taxes is, for seasonals is basically 10%.
Okay.
For year round, it's about 8%. Now, workers' comp, it depends on, we are in a group, the acronym is DFIT, and it's all the municipalities, the majority of the municipalities in Delaware. And we get a much lower workers' comp rate than the general public. Because there's a great safety program that they have for all the towns. So we get a lower percentage. Fact is, a couple years ago, all the towns got a refund, which you normally don't see in the private sector.
Thank you.
So that's a great benefit.
Yep.
So that's kind of a set thing. We can't, those numbers we can't mess with. Iris, do you want me to go line by line through the expenses, or how do you want me to?
Well, what I'm thinking is maybe if we, we can go maybe by some of these different, like, kind of go by category perhaps, and where, as I look at it, I say, okay, where do we have sort of where the actuals are? I'm just looking across that, okay, the actuals and like, for example, the bank and credit card fees went up 3 times.
Okay,
Right, so that's like, I think we just look at where the outliers are.
all right.
And then you also call out outliers that you see, and then anybody who has questions, just jump in and let's just, work through it.
I have one. I noticed you mentioned 5% for employee benefits, but over here on the far right, it says 18% increase, opposed to next 2 months, 25%.
Okay, which,
It's, on 6020130, year-round employee benefits.
okay, so that's administration, 6020. Okay, let's see. Oh, that one went up because many of our employees this year, many of our administrative employees got life insurance this year.
Okay.
So it went up from last year because they got life insurance, which didn't have last year. Great benefit. So that's where that is.
All right, thank you.
Quick question, Sheena.
Yes, sir.
John Gephardt. As I kind of go through, I'm looking at the high dollar items and then the change from the amended FY 2025 budget. And I noticed under public safety, you do not have the change in the amount. The change from amended FY 2025 at the other side. And it probably looks like because these are bigger numbers and bigger public safety titles or whatever, but is there any chance next time we get together on this budget that we could get that page with the percentages?
Yeah, we're hoping, the amended budget, we have to, I was assuming that it gets approved on Friday night. That's up to the commissioners to approve it.
Okay.
I was being presumptive in putting it in there. It might not get approved. They might not approve all of it.
Right. It's the only page though that doesn't show the change amount from the.
Yeah, it just didn't get printed. That'll definitely be fixed. Yeah.
Okay, great, because that's
Yeah.
the main things I'm even though the small things are important, the main things I'm looking at are big percentage changes and big dollar items.
Not a problem. I will, tomorrow morning, I will reformat that and send that back out to y'all.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Hey everyone, it's Vinny. I just had a question. what are exactly are the bank and credit card fees?
Okay,
Two,
Yeah, that's
200
where we're at.
grand seems excessive.
all right, that's,
I agree with you, Benny.
all right. The reason it went up so much, in the past, the fees associated with Park Mobile were being netted into, and we were only reporting the net of the proceeds that we received from Park Mobile. This year, we reported the gross in the revenue and the net in the fees separately. If we had reported them differently, reported property last year, the fees last year would have been $108,000 higher. So last year's fees, instead of being $65,000, would have been $173,000. It is also the fees that the bank that we worked with last year, Fulton, was charging. We are now with Community Bank, and they do not charge us fees on our everyday transactions.
We did an RFP, put it out to the public. We looked at it, Sheena and I looked at it, talked it over with the mayor, and decided to just look to see if we could shop for a bank that would lower some of the fees for us. After an RFP process, we found that Community Bank was the bank we wanted to move to.
Okay, so if we could pull that string a little further, and maybe for January, it might be helpful if we could see what of this, is it possible to say what's Park Mobile versus, or can you tell us that? What's Park Mobile versus the bank?
Right, this year Park Mobile was $135,000. So the bank is roughly $55,000. And that is the process, that is the fees associated with when you come in and pay, somebody purchases something with a credit card. Anything associated with that.
Right.
And there has been, I know other towns pass those fees on to the people that pay with credit cards.
Customer, right.
The customers.
Well, I was gonna ask that about the parking specifically because, in Northern Virginia, when I use Park Mobile to visit my mother, it's always, okay, your parking is $3 and then I get charged $3.12 or whatever. And so is that, would we be able to do something like that? Because to me, it makes sense that people expect that.
It's being, our parking supervisor is discussing with Park Mobile
Okay.
the situation.
Yeah, because so if you guys are already on that, because I think that's just, again, if people are used to parking in other cities, they're probably used to already paying that fee anyway. So if we can pass it on, that's a huge swing of $135,000.
Right. And when another fee that we have is you can undo, if you rent your property, you can do your rental license online and it goes through Adobe Sign and there is a fee associated with that. So that's in there. Fulton did have quite a few fees, so the fees will go down some next year.
And are you able to, because this was 55, right, for the bank, are you able to take a wag at what that might be? If it's gonna be less, because between those two things, because now we're budgeting 200, so there's budgeting sort of almost $20,000 more for next year, but our fees are going down, and so that might just be a string to pull further, and if we can pass that on.
Yep.
Good point.
That's not a problem.
Because the end is, the big picture is if you get down to the bottom here, we've got to find $500,000 to make this close. So,
Yep.
Any place that we can sharpen our pencils on the expenses, I think is a good first step.
Not a problem. That's easy to do.
All right.
I'm sorry, it's Vinny again. So is the offsetting revenue from Park Mobile, is that the 1.17 million for the parking meters? Is that the benefit of using that service?
It's in parking, the majority of it is in parking meters. Some of it is in daily parking, but the majority is in parking meters.
Okay.
Well, since we're talking about parking, maybe, does it make sense to actually just talk about that revenue? Because there's some differences there, and maybe just talk about it holistically real quick. No, because, we did have budgeted, the 361 from the daily, and, we budgeted 880 and we got 361, and then we got way more in the parking meters, and I don't understand that.
The way people paid for their parking changed this year. Yeah, the seasonal, the hang tags, we had one fewer resident that purchased a hang tag, just one. I think we had I've got it right here. Oh, excuse me, we had, we had 8 fewer businesses that bought hang tags, which, that could just be, businesses not coming into town or buying fewer. We had 63 of the others, the $300, so that's the Lewis and Rehoboth and the others making a choice whether they bought Lewis.
So if you own property, you pay $175 for a parking permit hang tag. If you're a business owner and you want to pay for your employees, and you show a wage stub showing that you do work in town, it's $200 for a hang tag. And if you just come to visit town, you don't own property, you don't work in town, it's $300 for a hang tag.
But those are all pretty flat. I mean, it's,
Well-
477,
Yeah.
497, but it's the next two that are.
That's what I'm getting to.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a change. So with that, there's 63 fewer that bought the hang tag. They chose to pay by the hour. There was a change from year to year in the way people chose to pay for their parking. Fewer people chose to buy the hang tags. The number of hours that people chose to pay went up substantially. So it was a total change in pattern.
And so daily, so daily is the people that just park for a full day.
They pay for a day, a weekend, or a week.
Okay,
And the meters is the people that either use the coins, which was almost $15,000 of those coins.
We only have 37 of those meters
yeah.
left.
And this is just people paying hourly via Park Mobile.
Yep.
Okay, and so then the fees though, then are offsetting this a little bit because of.
Yes.
Because it's all on credit card. Okay, all right, now I get it.
But it was interesting, the change in the pattern of way people paid.
And are there more people coming in for the day? Are we attracting, because it looks like, the hotels maybe, and some of that revenue was a little bit less, but maybe people are coming for the day and they're not spending the night.
Right.
But they're giving us money. All right. Okay. Any more questions on parking?
Yeah.
Yep.
That is very, very helpful discussion. All right, so now if we can just go back then to the general administrative. Another question I had is what does the donations line mean as an expense?
As an expense, normally we give $5,000 to the Rehoboth Volunteer Fire Department every year.
Oh, our donations.
Our
Okay.
donation.
We donate too, that's what okay.
Yep. This year and last year, we did a match that we asked the community to donate, hey, whatever you donate, we will match.
We'll match it.
Nice.
So we had approximately $10,000 come in, so we matched it. So that's why we were off there.
So are we gonna do that next year? Because now we only have 5,000. Like, do we think that will happen again?
We would like to, because we think the fire company does deserve more than
Yeah.
$20,000 a year for
Right.
providing service to the town of Dewey Beach.
Yep. I agree.
So I guess do we want to budget, does that one need to go up?
I believe it does. It probably should go to 10. I know we have one person in town that writes a check every year for $5,000. We have to at least match that every year.
Okay. And I'm just taking some quick notes here. Like I don't, I talked to Paul Bauer a little bit earlier and probably today doesn't make sense for us to really, vote on anything or whatever, but Paul and Elizabeth are in the conversation that we can have questions and sort of homework that we have for the January meeting and, we can capture all that and then go there. So, because it's, what are we gonna vote on when we're gonna still
The inquiry.
this is sort of fact finding, so.
I think it's important that the committee understands where most of our revenue comes from. The number one spot is parking, $1.7 million in parking. Transfer tax is another big one. But with transfer tax, it all depends on the economy. First year I was here, I think we had over $1 million in transfer tax.
Yep.
This year we budgeted $500,000 because we saw the interest rates, inflation. We're going to do a little better than $500,000 this year on transfer tax, we think. But unless the interest rates go back down and the economy settles, we don't think we're going to be anywhere near what we were when I got here 3 years ago, $1 million in transfer tax. The other one is accommodations tax, which is really rental tax. And that's what, usually $700,000 a year?
Right, and this year it is up, but if you'll notice, hotel tax is down. The hotels have reported $900,000 less in revenue than last year.
So we rely heavily on those revenues coming in, and that's based on the economy. Whereas most towns, most cities in the state and the country know they have 1,400 residents and they know they're getting a percentage of tax for each one of those properties. We don't have the ability to do that here.
How much is that, is there a reflection of the fact we have one less hotel in town now?
No,
No?
mm-mm.
I mean, I think with COVID, there was a huge bump. People couldn't go anywhere else, so they did beach vacations, now everyone's going other places and back to, I'd love to see, some of those numbers of, where they were sort of before.
Well, we only, the hotel tax, we only started collecting back in summer of '21.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't matter.
Right. And they submit a form each month with their revenues for the month, the prior month, and then our percentage of that. And I basically just keep a spreadsheet and,
Are those audited?
I'm sorry, but I like these people in this town and I personally would not do that.
So they not only pay tax to us, they pay tax to the state on the hotel room. So the state can audit them at any time.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't live here, but I like working here and I wouldn't.
If anything, what we could do is ask that to be part of, what comes in at the end of the year. Whatever you file with the state, you file with us. For us to put together an audit on local businesses, that really, the state's already doing it. So maybe just have them include what they have.
Under the auspices of it being less paperwork for them, they just give us the same thing, we're done.
Now, does everybody want us to look at their financial statements? That's probably not another happy thing for people, but
Plus the cost might not outweigh the juice.
Yeah, right.
And how long's the cable deal in place for?
The
The franchise?
The franchise tax, the Comcast franchise.
It's up for renew this year. I think it's a 5-year. I will check, but it's up for renew this year. And what's happening is we're losing revenue there because folks are streaming. They're using Fire Sticks. They're using a bunch of other things than cable TV. So the amount of people and the income in that is going down. It's going to continue to go down.
Yet somehow, all those people are making a lot of money. Somehow my Comcast bill goes way up every year. Or whatever other streaming you do.
And we're not gonna make it competitive. We're gonna allow exclusive. We're gonna grant an exclusive franchise again.
If they're the only person that comes in, yeah.
does anybody else have the infrastructure to do it besides?
I know in Lewis, Comcast is the only company that's in there.
The only thing that we could see is potential competition from Verizon with their wireless stuff, but they don't have any hardline. You know, then,
Well, and that was a question, so, you know, what are the different internet backbones that come in here? Comcast is it, because they're the only ones that are built out, you can't get anyone else, but is there a way to get revenue from any of the Wi-Fi usage? Cause, I mean, I'm just a question, I have no idea.
well, I don't know if you looked at your Wi-Fi bill, but there's a lot of tax on there already.
Exactly, so why don't we get our, you know, where do we get our?
We don't get any revenue from the new 5G towers or anything like any of that permits. Like,
No,
that
only
was all state.
when they put them in,
Yeah.
they have a building application fee
Yeah.
that they pay to us. And then the cost of them installing it, we get a percentage of that once it's installed, but after that, nothing.
No tail, okay.
No.
I mean, that would be, you know, again, maybe it's not feasible, but if, maybe that's something to look into, is there a way to? And, you know, if people are using, when they're, well, it's not our towers, is it? All right, well, I don't know enough about it, but. Okay. And then the beach concession, we just
We just
renewed
renewed
that,
that.
so that's what the contract is.
That just went up. Yeah.
It's Vinny. Do we own the land that the towers are sitting on? I mean, I know there's only a pole, but do we
It's,
own that land?
it's actually owned by DelDOT, depending on where it is on the street. And at the end of the streets, it's a mixture of DelDOT and DENREC that actually have those areas. Now, the town does have an agreement with DelDOT since 1981 on the right-of-way, so we can charge parking, but not on the utility poles. Like DP&L's got poles all up and down the street also. And we don't charge DP&L for any of those poles.
Okay.
That's not that unusual for a municipality, though, not to charge the tolls.
All right, so, do you wanna go back to the expenses again? Sorry, we're jumping around.
That's fine.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
it kinda maybe
That's-
helps to look at things that go together.
It's a lot of information, it's a lot of numbers. Most of you'll see that each of the departments has its own numbers. Administration is 602, police is 603, and you'll see that the 100, like 603, 0100 is year-round employees. You know, the numbers are kind of consistent. So if you wanted to look at supplies for each department, it's the department number and then the 1500s.
Okay.
You know, same equipment maintenance is pretty much the 1800. You know, we have combined the building maintenance, cleaning, and the utilities for town hall into one. You know, we were splitting it between the police and town hall, but, you know, in a couple years, all of the utilities except the maintenance and the life-saving station are all going to be under, you know, one building anyway, so. Is there anything that, you know, struck and that any of you have questions on that, you know, you don't understand what the title means or anything, or why we have something, or?
Well, mine is more sort of like looking at sort of the variance
Okay.
between numbers, you know, like the legal fees. Obviously, that's a crapshoot, because you don't know if we're gonna get sued one year or not, or whatever happens.
That, yeah,
But, you know, the highest one on here is 81,000, and we've got 100,000 budget, so is that one we might wanna look at?
the legal fees, yeah, that's,
Or is there something else that's driving us to keep it higher?
yeah, that, there's a few things that are,
So we have pending litigation, right? So we're
Okay.
keeping a little higher because of that.
Okay, fair. That's, yeah, it was, that was, I guess you're not really at liberty to talk about that, but okay, that makes sense.
Can you educate us, and you mentioned earlier that you can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like this doesn't include grants and that works differently. Can you just educate us on that piece of it?
Right.
Question.
The police department, under Chief Speak, has been very proactive in getting grants. And the town manager has also. Town manager has been able to get a lot of,
Community
Community
transportation funding
right,
grants.
to get paving done in the town and new bike racks.
Stormwater on Jersey Street, bike racks,
Right.
radar signs that you see at either end of town. So we've gotten over $250,000 just in the last year and a half of CTF funding for Representative Schwarzkopf, Senator Huxtable. And then the chief's done a really good job getting a lot of different grants to pay for a lot of her police programs. We've gotten $4 million from the state in grants for our new town hall. $3.5 million being in community reinvestment funding we put in for a grant. We got that. And then $1 million I put in for $2 million last year, and they gave us $1 million in the budget for this coming. So we have $4 million we have in grants from the state for our new town hall. So we've done very well with grants and applications for grants between the police department and the town.
Besides the
How's that
town,
reflected or not reflected
Okay.
in here?
most of those, besides the town hall, which we would have to get the funding elsewhere, most of those are purchases that we wouldn't be doing if we didn't get those grants. The chief got 2 e-trucks. We wouldn't be getting e-trucks.
There were $130,000 we saved. If we didn't, we would try to have to find in our budget, where are we going to buy vehicles?
Right.
Where are we going to get the revenue? She put in for a grant, got the grant for 2 trucks and a charging station. Saved us about $140,000.
Right. So, but there's other things. She got a grant for protective vests for our seasonal employees, our seasonal officers. Well, if she hadn't got the grant, wouldn't have gotten the purchase. She wouldn't have made that purchase. A lot of the things we don't plan for the purchase if she doesn't get that grant.
So just to say it back so you understand it, so it doesn't show up anywhere in the budget or the budget planning exercise because those are reserved or set aside grants, right? They're special purpose grants, and they're
Right.
limited and restricted to what you can get with them or what you
Right.
ask for.
And if we don't get the grant, we don't make the purchase.
And then, as I understand it, then aside, this is the operating, and then there's a capital expenditures budget that will have the bigger line item, and then we can assess whether, there's sort of a risk of some could be paid for by grants or not, or we could decide to incorporate them into the annual budget or not. Is that right? Did I?
Most
that
of
correctly?
the capital expenditures, if there is funds, if we're lucky, we have been very lucky that at the end of the year, we come out in the black. We have money left over. And at that point, the commissioners can decide to fund the capital expenditures for the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. And if they do, then the departments know they have, the purchases available for the next couple years.
Okay.
But if we don't, then they can't. It all depends on how the town does.
Hey, Iris, it's Vinny. I got another question. I'm looking at the finance summary all data tab on the file you sent out. And under all other revenue, we projected 850,000, but I'm sorry, we budgeted 1.8 million, but only brought in 851. Any detail on, that's $1 million miss on revenue for that line. I tried to look at the detail. I couldn't catch where the discrepancy was.
So what were you looking at?
It's the FIN summary all data tab,
Okay,
row 13, column K. See the all other revenue? 851 versus 1.8 million.
There's nothing on line 13, so I don't know what,
You see.
Can you say what page of the PDF it is? Maybe that,
I don't have that open. I'm sorry. It's on the all data tab. Fine, FIN summary, all data,
okay, hold on. We can-
column A.
Oh, you're in the financials, aren't you?
Yeah,
He's no expert.
Okay, hold on.
I could try to screen share if you like.
No, I can pull up the financials real quick.
Okay.
Don't tell me I told you so. Financial summary, all data. You said line 13,
Yeah. Row 13.
and what were you looking at?
The all other revenue,
And,
the actual is 851.
uh-huh,
We had a budget of 1.8 million.
yep. Okay. We had hoped, the reason, that difference there is we had hoped to be working on the new town hall by now, when we did this budget last year.
Okay.
And that other revenue, we had hoped to be recognizing some of that grant money that we have sitting there as unearned revenue. We haven't earned the revenue that grant money. It is for a certain situation. We can't use it for anything other than the town hall, so it's unearned revenue. We were hoping to be using it and recognizing that revenue at this point. So that's why the difference. We're not working on the town hall at this point. So we can't recognize revenue that we're not using. That's what the difference is.
Yeah. Was it fair to say that when we do receive the revenue, we would just be handing it back out for the building expense?
Yes, but we can't, we have to recognize the revenue and show the expense.
In the same way.
so in this 26 operating budget, the town hall's not in there yet for that reason.
Right.
Is the
We
projected
can't-
expense for the town hall in here?
It will be in the capital expenditures budget. It will not be in the operating budget because it is.
We haven't got the bids back yet.
Yeah,
We have no idea.
and we were hoping at this point to be working on a new town hall.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a CPA, but it just doesn't seem correct to anticipate revenue without anticipating
We
the
were,
expense that would be related to it.
the,
Again, I'm just bringing it up as just an observation.
if you look on line 23, under J,
Yep.
J23, under town operating expenses, you will see that we had budgeted for $1.5 million in expenses at this point.
And that's under the assumption that we would be building.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and then that's.
Okay, there we go. That answered my question. There we go. Thank you.
No problem.
Yep.
All right, you win.
Since our focus is trying to manage down the expense side, I'm curious, do you see any other, I mean, you guys have obviously been very successful working the grants thing, which is an art into itself. I'm curious, do you see anything else on the expense side that there are grants to go out there that you haven't had the capacity to go pursue, or you don't think you'll get? Anything even around things like gifts in kind that you've tried to pursue, or, I don't want to cover territory that's already been covered.
You don't try to use grants for your general operating because you can't use them on a repetitive basis.
Yeah, I understand.
They're not guaranteed.
One time,
I'm talking about
yeah.
one time.
Yeah,
The French drains on Jersey Street, we got a $53,000 CTF grant. That's really gonna help with the whole project comes in at 145,000.
Right, but those are restricted, right? Those are restricted to that project.
Yes.
We would have, for our general operating, you have to have a revenue stream, or somebody would have to do a endowment.
Right. What about like gifts in kind or other things like that?
But
Getting people to donate software, getting people to donate time services, all that kind of stuff.
It's,
Good luck, have fun, go try to
I
find
mean, it
it.
may work for a year, but then the
Yeah.
next year, if the person moves on or decides they don't want to do it, then we're kind of stuck.
No, fair play, but at least it's potential, near-term relief. If it's not worth pursuing, because, that's fine.
Well, we do some like the beautification project, all those flower boxes. Those were donations that Kate and I solicited and many other people solicited as well. How much did we bring in on that, Kate? So it came in as donations from the public. But then we had you'll see the expense in there of, what was it, 20 grand or something like that, Kate?
But that's not.
That's
part
not
of
in our budget.
That's
Yeah.
not part of the budget.
Right, but in last year's, you'll see that in last year's expenses.
No, it's a separate item. It's not part of this, not part of the operating of the town.
Major majority of our expenses in our town budget is for salaries and benefits. Our salaries are lower. Our employee salaries are lower than our surrounding towns. We try to make up for that by giving them better health benefits. So we try to level the bubble by saying, we're going to give you the 100% on the health benefits, but your salary is going to be a little lower in Rehoboth, Bethany Beach, and Lewis. But our major expenses are in salary benefits.
Mhm.
So we got to find the revenue to keep up with the salaries. And with inflation for the last year going up, it's been tough.
Do we have an opportunity to better enforce people driving too fast through the town?
So as a former state policeman, you don't go out and you set quotas. You can go out and set goals and objectives for traffic contacts. Really, it's up to the police officer when they make that contact based on the speed that they pull that person over with or the traffic violation, what they actually write them for. And we really don't want to get into the business of being a small community that's known as a speed trap. The chief, once a month, lays out how many hours her officers have spent on traffic enforcement and how many tickets they have written, whether it be speeding, stoplight, stop sign, and for DUIs. She provides that. She'll provide it again this Friday at 3 o'clock at our commissioners meeting. So you can raise the fines. You can do that. You can raise some of the fines for like parking, some of the other things here in town. That's something we could explore. And I think our police officers do a good job on speed enforcement currently. But Friday, if there's a question about speed enforcement, I think that should be addressed by the chief.
What about traffic cameras?
So traffic cameras right now are only allowed in the state of Delaware in work zones and only certain work zones. They do have legislation, and Commissioner Bauer knows a little bit about this also, that is pending, that it can only be used in residential areas if it passes. So for example, here in the town of Dewey Beach, it could be used on King Charles. It could be used on Bayard Avenue. It could be used on any one of the 21 side streets, but they're not going to let us use it on Route 1 if it passes.
And we get that money anyway. If that.
Right now, the way it's
Done
written
that way.
is the town may not get any money from the speed cameras.
So there's no point to it.
that's
So we just
like
make everybody angry with no benefit.
It's different.
Give out a lot of tickets with no money to the town.
As the way it's
Okay, that was my question.
Baltimore
Sure.
Good for UC, DC, both of those two towns.
How about the crosswalks? I mean, I'm out there a lot, and I see many close calls, and I've seen some accidents. And obviously, public safety is probably one or two on our list of priorities. Yeah, I see people running those flashing lights every day, all day. Unfortunately, do we have any opportunity there to have someone man that and enforce whatever penalty that is? I
Vinny,
think that would be fair.
Vinny, that's one of the things that was also discussed. We had a safety forum in part of council, and we were looking at that, and the officers have been doing crosswalk enforcement. In fact, my kids have witnessed this several times where they'll be in the car and somebody steps off the curb and the officer will call out over their their microphone saying, "You don't have the right of way, please step back." One of the things that I have been struck as we've been paying attention, when we are standing on a sidewalk, a car going past us seems to be going much faster than it really is. And so our perception of speeding cars is inaccurate. But yes, the officers have been doing much more speed enforcement, crosswalk enforcement, and just informing.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is one car will stop and then there's another one blowing along and not paying attention. It's always
Exactly.
It's second lane.
So who has the right of way? The pedestrian?
So pedestrian, if they enter into the crosswalk, they have the right of way. If they step out into the crosswalk while the car is still coming, then the pedestrian always has the right of way.
Okay.
But they're supposed to use caution and look before they step into the crosswalk.
Yes. And I tell my kids that all the time. And all
Well,
my
somebody, you gotta wait till they stop because you
And
Exactly.
we also
don't know if they're
observe,
stopping or they're looking at, who's playing at Jimmy's tonight or whatever.
Yeah, I've cringed many times.
It is a concern,
It's
and I
scary.
will, it is a concern, and I'll, when I see the chief tomorrow, I'll bring it up and say it was a topic of conversation at the Budget and Finance meeting,
Perfect. Thank you.
in speed enforcement.
At some point, there used to be there was conversation about potentially lowering the lights. Is that still being considered?
So currently, we have a Del Dot project that's going on in town
Yeah.
that's gonna widen the sidewalks, move some of the telephone poles out of the middle of the sidewalks, and then also repaint the warnings of the approach of the crosswalks. They're gonna take the lights that are in the center island and move those down lower. And we did, as you can see, cut back some of the trees in the center island. Those are crepe myrtles. Even though we cut them very low, they should be coming back, and we're gonna keep them cut low. But the yellow beacons on the center islands are to be lowered halfway.
Because sometimes I know, I'm hoping I like, and I see it, it's too late.
Right.
Well, when it's sunny and stuff, that yellow, but if it's more, you kind of, it's more eye level, I think. If it's, I think I agree.
Different subject, and but I was just looking at the bottom line, where our amended budget will be, the difference net income amended for 2025 will be 530,000, and the current budget, our current 26 budget is a loss of 150,000. The change is marked as a minus 30%. That's actually minus 130%. I think what we need to do, because that is huge. I think what we need to do, and it makes it easier to read these things, is if the number stays the same between the 25 budget amendment and 26, the change is zero. And then if it's, and then go plus and minus from that, because when you see 100%, it's a little bit, it doesn't tell the full story. And when you use that calculation, it really doesn't tell the same story at the bottom, at what we're looking at, going, a loss of 130% in our net income. I'd rather see us, have the the changes be the delta between the two, and not when it's constant. I don't think it should be zero, or I don't think it should be 100%.
Okay, well, I can change all that if the amended budget passes Friday night. If the amended budget passes Friday night, as I said, I was being presumptive with that. And that was an error. I should not have done that. And I apologize to the commissioners for being presumptive, and I apologize to the committee for doing that.
I mean, no, I'm glad you did it, because it helps the discussion, this discussion.
I beg to differ. The two big things we're talking about are increase in pay, and where to make up money for what's going to be a very large deficit. And my computer just changed screens on me, but these are things that I'm not an accountant, but I've seen a lot of budgets, and the budget percentage difference is, if the number stays the same, it's zero. Pluses are plus percentage and minuses are minus percentages, usually in red. So, Sheena, I understand. The page, as I mentioned, that lacks the percentages is one of the biggest, most important pages out there, with changes in police funding. Yes, I would really appreciate that change. I think it's going to be a lot easier to read and a lot easier for our committee to discern where our big revenue and income and shortfalls are. And then one last question: is tonight's goal for us to be able to approve this budget? Because
No.
Oh,
okay,
no, we're gonna have at least 2 more
No,
meetings.
this is fact finding and understanding and an initial discussion.
okay, because the other thing is, we obviously need more time. I was just concerned that we would have to approve the amended 2025 budget, which,
No, that is going to the commissioners Friday night. That is for them to approve Friday night.
okay, great, thank you.
That's why I said I was in error. I was presumptive in putting it on here, and I apologize to both the commissioners for my presumption and to the committee. I was in error for being so
Fine.
presumptive.
No, but it's still helpful, because there's things where, because we have this actual year to date, but there's certain things that are being paid now at the end of the year. And so that's helpful, because we say, okay, that's gonna.
Oh, it's helpful. It's
Right.
helpful. Don't be apologetic. I'm just saying where I would like to see it in the future.
Yeah, it's after the committee, after the commissioners approve it on Friday night, if they approve it on Friday night, excuse me, over my Christmas break, I will be working more on preparing things for the budget workshop in January and adjusting things with the amendment numbers and everything.
Great. Just for purpose of planning, when is the budget discussion in January for us?
That will be up to the commissioners to
Okay.
set the workshop.
Okay. We'll stand by.
Well, and I think, if what might be helpful is, we would want our committee to participate in that. So maybe if there's some dates that are bad for various people, would it be helpful, Paul and Elizabeth, if you guys knew what some bad dates were in advance, so that, just to help calibrate that workshop, or Sheena?
Bill?
So we know the third Friday in January is our commissioners meeting.
Okay,
We probably want to have the workshop, I would think, before that at some point, or maybe even have it on the same day. It'll be up to the mayor and the commissioners when that is set. So if our meeting usually starts at 3 o'clock, we've done it in the past where we've had the workshop before the actual meeting, and we've started it at 1 o'clock, like the workshop.
Right.
And then we go from the workshop right into the commissioners meeting afterwards. And again, that's going to be up to the mayor to set.
Okay, well, it's just good, but that actually helps us say, okay, it's kind of, like, for me, it's just how do we, like, we all have different,
And I think it's January 17th is the third Friday in
Yes.
January, so.
But what you're looking for from us is revenues are flat, expenses went up, we're projecting 150K hole. You're not looking for us to tell you to move this thing up or that thing down or this thing over. It's more from an advisory standpoint in terms of our role. It's more any creative ideas on finding new money and, any creative ideas, if there's on some of the large expense deltas. But the expectation is that we go through this line by line and try to, fix that $1,000 miss or this. Right? That's not us, right?
well, but I think I would say there is, I think, a component of understanding what they are, and then, where there's things that we think might be discretionary, or maybe we disagree with the assumptions, because, is it gonna be, do we agree that we think it's gonna be the same as last year or not, or?
But that's just up to the commissioners, right? I mean, it's their vote.
You
I think
recommend, you make the recommendation to the
recommend.
commissioners.
Mhm.
I'll give you perspective, and Elizabeth, I won't speak for you, but like, for example, when I look at the operating budget here, the first line is 450,000 in transfer tax in the, for the 26 budget. If I look back, we haven't had a year that we've been under 600. So why would it be 450 next year? So there's your 150,000 right there.
People ain't gonna be buying like they were buying. I mean, I like being conservative on the revenue.
So that's what we're being conservative. We don't know what the future
Right.
holds. And
Yeah.
there's only so many houses, and Commissioner Bauer and I have talked about how many houses are there, how many times they can sell houses, are the interest rates going to drop back down into the 3s or the 4s?
Right.
And then we get more transfer. If not, Sheen and I, 450 is very conservative. Maybe we'll be higher than that. This year, we're going to be higher than that, right?
I think you have to budget conservatively on the
Well,
revenue
and-
side.
But that's kind of why I said, that's something we didn't really need to spend a lot of time necessarily on that today, because I think, let's understand really what that delta is.
Mhm.
And are there other areas, like we talked about the park mobile fees and stuff, and if downstream, when we get to sort of what the final, what we think is a good expenditure budget, then we can look at the knobs to get the revenue up.
And that's why Sheena provided.
Because that's a matter of risk, right? If the commissioners say we're gonna make it 600 for the transfer tax, that's a risk to say, okay, we're willing to risk that it's close enough.
Sheena has talked about this in the past, she's talked about her swag, and how she got off that 500K. Have you ever thought of talking to any of the area realtors, see what they say?
Yeah, how many houses on the
What do they
market?
say? What do they project? What do they think? I don't know, maybe we can do that.
I can give you some historical statistics on that. Typically in Dewey Beach, we sell 50 houses a year.
Yeah.
Some years it's 45, some years it's 52. 50 is a good round number from a rule of thumb.
Sure.
Years ago, the average home in Dewey was $500,000. Now the average home is $1 million. So if we just sold 25 houses, we'd have the same revenue number. It's still 1.5% of whatever your sales number is, not how many houses you sold. So when you look at it, and I know that's always a scary number because it's an unknown. I mean, we could sell 0 houses. We could also sell 100 houses. Well, that would be really good. But we, you don't know, but it's a variable that you have history of. I think people will always be buying and selling houses in every neighborhood, really. I mean, it happens everywhere, not just in beach communities. So, we've had a big run in 2024 and 2020 when people bought a lot of houses. And I know the average time that houses flip when you buy a house and sell that house is 7 years. Everybody gets that 7-year itch. Not everybody, but that's another statistic that realtors use when they look at people that own a house that have been in it more than 7 years. You're now a prospect that, hey, you want to buy you've made some money on this one. Do you want to go to a bigger house, a nicer house, and sell this one? You've made some nice money on it. So real estate always buys and sells. If you talk to 100 realtors, you get 100 different opinions on how many houses are going to sell next year. But those are some of the just historical statistics that are always in the back of my mind when I look at that transfer tax number. The county also does the same thing, and the state also does the same thing.
If you look at the very first line there under revenue for transfer tax, and you see 21 and 22, you see how high those numbers are, right?
Yeah,
Remember, the Hyatt was just finishing out, selling all the rest of their condos there. So some of that is reflected here. Now that all their condos have been sold, you see the drop. You also see interest rates that went up. So that's where you can account for some of that $1 million change in transfer tax between 21, 22, and 23, if you look at that.
as I learned from our realtor, basically the rental and the sale market basically go hand in hand. When one's up, the other's down. And if you look, that's the case because in rentals, it increased. Wait a second, where is the rental? A rental.
Accommodation tax.
Yeah. So typically when the sales market grows cold, the rental market gets hot. And that's where we are right now because of interest rates.
We're only getting 3% of that, where most towns are getting 6, 7, or 8.
Understood it. And we're
Can't do anything
adding,
about it for next year, though, right?
we're also adding that 4.5% based on the state legislation. So at that point now, our renters are paying 7.5%.
And if you were in Bethany Beach, you'd be paying 11.5%.
Understood.
You're still getting a good deal in Dewey Beach.
Yep.
But Dewey's still only getting 3%. The state's getting the 4.5%.
Right.
We've got less
You brought it
inventory.
last time. People who seem to be renting here less, you see more Ubers and things come on into town. And so as the price of the houses during sales go up, so do the prices of rentals. Like in our units, now you have one person rents in our place, and then 2 other units outside there, so they can all come in and use the pool. So there's a lot of games that are being played.
Well, there's a lot of people though that aren't renting their houses anymore compared to
I'm one of them.
The group
me too,
houses.
right? COVID happened and, my kids got kicked out of school. I'm like, okay, well,
Well, rental properties are less than they're, I think the last number I looked at, out of 1,600 properties, we have 700 rental licenses. So 900 people don't rent at all.
One thing that we were asked to do,
Yes.
They're not reporting it, right?
one thing we were asked to do, or we talked about back when we were in the budget committee and trying to make more income was, I believe the town has it, some kind of computer software to verify who might be renting that's not reporting it.
Yes. And now with the state collecting it, we could probably match up what they're collecting to what we're doing too. And I'm working on that currently. So
Okay, good. Yeah. Don't want any stealth renters.
want everybody to be honest. That's all we're asking.
Absolutely.
And we did make it, we did make it uncomfortable for people that did get caught. I'm not trying to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, we have somebody in the chat room.
Bernie, I am very conservative when I do this. I do not live here. I would love to live in this town. It's a cute little town, very unique. This is y'all's town. I could, as Eric said when he got here, make numbers do anything. I could easily change the numbers and make them cover this, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. I wanted this year for the citizens to tell me how they tell me what you feel the numbers should be, because this is your town. I work for y'all. Bill and I work for y'all. We're here at your grace, and we want to know what you think, what you feel. I've had my expenses just in case something happens wrong. I am going to look at the fees, Iris, because, I want to make sure I get that right. But I want everybody's input. I want to know what y'all think. And I answer emails. I'm here by 5 o'clock in the morning, so I will answer emails at the weirdest times.
I can assure you, you will not receive any
No,
from me.
but Sheena, you're doing an amazing job. All this is just questioning, honestly.
No, and please, I
And
will, I
educating
will
for
take.
us, because this is like I joke coming in today, like I'm gonna be the master of dumb questions, and not any of it is meant to.
No, I want your questions, as I told you yesterday. The only dumb one's the one that's not answered.
Okay, here's a simple one.
Yep.
Where does the money come from? Buy a new goodie bag that we hang up.
So if you look at dog licenses, which is right there at 40-11100,
Yep.
I got here, we are $20,000 in licenses. And then we brought in these lifelong $50 dog licenses, and we've doubled our revenue coming in. We use that money to pay our dog ambassador who's on the beach in the morning and the afternoon, and to replace the doggy bags around town. Doggy bags are around $8,900, $9,000 a year for those bags.
Yeah. Don't take it wrong, because I had a dog up until she died. So I always used to love those bags. My kids come out with their dogs, and they have a license. But we have a lifetime license, and that's an annual cost. Maybe we have to charge, or might be at one point, a couple of bucks every year, or every couple of years.
You would be amazed at how many people come in here every year and buy the $5 because they're only here for a weekend,
Yeah.
and they won't buy the lifetime, they buy the $5.
Or they're on the beach and our dog ambassador says, hey, you should have a dog license. You don't need to get one right now from me, or you can get one, but you have to leave the beach. And the people will ignore them, and we have to get the police involved, and they just walk away, they go over the dune, and they just kind of disappear. Continuously that happens.
It's really probably not worth it for that. If you've got it, you feel it's manageable, that's good.
It's amazing how many, it's interesting the way people act with their dogs.
But I think it's because people I own here, so I'm gonna be down here every year.
All right, so, could we talk, a little bit about insurance?
Yes, that is the insurance, the police liability insurance, the public officials liability, the flood insurance on this building and town hall, and the, what's that other insurance that you have on your regular stuff? If your stuff breaks or something.
Property insurance?
Yeah, property insurance, that's the one.
Cause so there's insurance, like, 'cause there's insurance in the, general administrative, there's insurance in
Yes.
public safety, so it's the same, they're all same. they're
Well,
all-
the public safety is the police liability insurance.
Yeah,
Under administrative, it is the public officials.
all right, so you're
And-
talking about all different ones, okay.
Yep,
So, well, I guess the police one right now is 93, there just must be another payment coming.
yes, it's
Okay,
monthly. We do
okay.
it monthly.
Then never mind.
And I've reached out to our insurance broker to see where she thinks it's going to be going. Police liability insurance has been going up. We're hoping that ours, due to changes that have been made in this town, will start to go down. But she also said the property, nationwide has been going up. So I'm hoping ours renews in April. I'm hoping to find out before the January meeting where ours might go.
I'm just trying to look at any other big. So, and the equipment maintenance is another one I have a question, because the amended budget and the actuals is around 50,000, and then the 26 is 1,000. Is there just categorized differently?
Their equipment maintenance, you're talking on public safety, I assume, correct?
Yes, I am. Mhm.
The equipment maintenance, the dues and publications and subscriptions, And, professional fees. I've been discussing with the police chief and her administrative assistant, and things have been, over the past couple years, classified differently, and we have finally, this is the way we're classifying these. And it was the biggest one, the equipment maintenance this year. It is the police cameras, body cams. It is an annual subscription that we get reimbursed from the state, but we have to pay it, and eventually the state may stop. So we count that expense just in case the state stops reimbursing us.
It's the body cameras, it's
Yeah, but so-
mandatory by
but-
the state.
But the equipment maintenance is only $1,000.
Right,
versus
because it
50.
ends up in subscriptions this next year.
Oh, where's the okay. Oh, okay, I see.
You'll see that it's.
Yeah, that
they
one
got
jumped out.
reclassified.
Okay, yeah, that helps. I just didn't know where, I
That
figured
is
it was
the-
something like that.
Yeah, that is the only reimbursed expense that we count because we're not positive in the future that the state will continue to pay it.
Okay.
Different topic or subject. Have you guys gamed out at all what kind of mix of the four areas that you can increase fees on? How you would do that to make up the 150K gap?
So you could do what Rehoboth's considering, go from May 1st to October 31st. But when you do that.
How much does that give
For
us?
parking, we talked about that today, but you also have to pay the employees to come in and work during those times too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Have you guys gamed that out? Where
we
you-
talked about
where
it.
you said,
We talked
if-
about
If
that.
we do that, because every time you do that, there's a cost,
Yeah.
right, for that additional revenue?
Have not done that. Iris, didn't I just send you when we just updated everything? Or I sent that to you or the mayor, I can't remember.
The fee structure.
When we just updated everything. Is that right there? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just updated the rental and the commercial licensing last year. They just got updated the past 2 years.
It's this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I forwarded it to you guys.
And then, so we were a little hesitant I can throw numbers out, it'd be easy to, do the analysis on that if that's what you would like.
Well, no, I think what you're saying is that 2 of the 4 levers aren't in play this year. So, and I don't see how you get there with the 2 remaining levers.
I can easily, estimate, but I would need to know what levels you would suggest
Well,
go
do you have it for like May and the half of May and half of September? So maybe just double that and it's close enough.
So would you do,
I think you would set it at what a neighboring municipality, you take the average of the neighboring municipalities and you set it somewhere in there.
He's talking about
What does that
leaving it
give
at
us?
350 and going from May maybe to October,
okay,
without raising the actual amount. And then we could do it
and then your amount.
raising the amount to $4 an hour, also, but I mean.
But and then there's no associated expense with that because you're keeping you're just paying the people the same amount of time.
But if we passed, there's, just passing on the park mobile fees is 135K, right? So I mean, there's not, that's a pretty big lever if you just,
That's a good one.
if you did that anyway, so.
It's a good one.
I think there's
How does Uber play into this? They have to pay the town tax?
No.
I mean, I think that would be a good one to look into because.
Can't,
we can't.
yeah.
No, the reason I ask is because as parking goes up, it becomes the break-even point. They can say, well, hey, $4 an hour to park or
Take an Uber.
or Uber.
Yeah.
You can
But
go
I
back
think
and,
people don't notice it if it's like kind of, I'm doing Park Mobile, I'm doing it on the app and whatever, I don't think they're gonna be sensitized if it's, because it's a very small increment of a parking session compared to, I don't know, maybe they don't care $4 an hour, maybe it's a wash, but if we set that precedent, then we never have to worry about if Park Mobile ups their fees or it doesn't, it's just there. So,
I guess it's in our best interest to see what our neighboring towns are doing, but you know, what's Lewis charging? What's Rehoboth charging? What's Bethany charging in those 4 lever areas?
But an Uber from Bethany is like $100 on a Friday or Saturday night each way, so. That, we still have a ways to go to get that.
No, I just was referring to the 4 items that the commission is able to raise and what the figures are for that. I mean, as we talked about, the rental tax could be higher. Personally, don't want to see that, but it could be higher. You know, just kind of taking a comparison of where our neighboring 3 Delaware towns are on these things.
I have those numbers, and I was planning on having that for the January workshop.
Great.
Yeah, if you have them, send them out to everybody.
Yeah.
You don't mind, Sheena.
That's what I plan on doing over my Christmas break, Paul.
All right. Trying to
Thanks.
keep you busy. You know, there's nothing else going on, right?
So again, the 4 things that the commissioners can raise are parking, and those are the dates and the fees and the penalties associated with parking, the rental licenses, they can raise that, business licenses, they can raise that, building permits, they can raise that, and I believe the building fees. When you talk about rental tax, which is at 3%, that has to go to a referendum.
Look, I think there's two things. One, if you take those levers, you position them within the range of the surrounding municipalities, how much more does that give us? Right? And then you layer in, you know, some of the other ideas like the thank you charges on the park mobile and that stuff. I think the other thing at some point, I mean, look, I understand the reticence from elected officials to put referendums out to raise more money. But, you know, we keep shying away from that because, you got to go through all this, you got to sit out there. At least, there's a cost for trying, right? It costs to.
We
put all
budgeted
that stuff together.
$5,000 for a referendum.
Yeah, so, well, that's, okay, so you guys are already thinking about doing that, but at some point you got to at least ask.
Well, we have to have we budget for elections.
Yeah.
And part of that would be a referendum that could be in the election, right? So we budget for that every year.
Well, we should say everybody likes Paul and we don't need an election.
And that's what's happened.
I know.
the last couple of years.
Here is the dirty word or 2 words. I know that all the adjacent towns have them, and that's property tax, and that kind of, you know, that would take a lot of pressure off us regarding fees. But is a property tax currently prohibited by law in Dewey Beach, or where does that stand?
Prohibited by our charter.
Okay. And
We would have to go to referendum. So,
okay.
you know, and I'll share my personal opinion about it, you know, from an elected perspective is referendums are, you know, that gets the pulse of the people. I mean, and Mark, I'll take you back to your days in Brandywine School District there. You know, referendums, when people are asked to tax themselves, the answer is normally no, unless there's a good justification for it. So our justification would be X. I mean, that we need it for public safety. We need it for, that money needs to go somewhere. Otherwise, my decision would probably still be no to vote tax myself. School taxes normally fail the first and even second time. So, you know, in today's environment, right now, you're getting your reassessment tax, short-term rental tax added on. What else we got coming our way here? What other ones are coming down the pike here, Bill? So, I mean, asking people to spend, you know, to tax themselves, I don't think many people are inclined to do that.
We're negotiating against ourselves, right?
Right.
So you got to ask.
You got to ask, right?
If we just decide that we know the answer, and you know we don't ask, then who knows what we're missing?
Right. I mean, so
I'm not disagreeing with your assessment, by the way, but
Yeah.
you just got to ask.
And are we able to create new fees? I understand that the tax, that we can't, that the taxes need referendums and stuff, but
But that's still a charter. Anything that changes the charter, you got to put to the people.
because I just wonder, you know, because the other challenge that we're having is, you know, we're talking about transfer taxes, we're talking about the rentals and accommodations going down, is You know, when I bought my house in 2009, it was a ghost town in January. You wouldn't see another person or anything. Everything was closed, and now everything's open year round. So
I miss those days.
So there's, I know, but there's a couple of implications there. First of all, there are more people that need services.
We need more police
12 months
officers.
a year. And so, and so that's a lot of this budget. If you look at the police budget, you know, that's where, you know, and what's happening
Majority of our
over here.
expenses is in police.
We have restaurants that are now open all year. We also have restaurants, the very largest ones are the ones with the biggest crowds that, you know, and so is there a way there, you know, it's, okay, you know, Sunrise and Nixon, whatever, they close at 8 o'clock, but some of these other ones, you know, that are open all day, is there a way to maybe change that fee schedule and the, you know, you hate to, I mean, it's hard to prove what bars cost what, but there's small and large and is there a way to maybe increase that? Because, okay, $12 a year per seat, great, and nobody goes in and you know,
Yeah,
that's
but
one
Paul
drink
will
per
tell you,
person. It's nothing to those owners. I know, I want them to take care of their employees. I don't want them to pass on and okay, we're gonna jack up prices, but there's gotta be sort of a, you know, why do we need more police? And it's all of us that are here all the time and and then places that are open all year round.
You can't piss off Monty and the 61 guys, though. I mean,
No.
they give a lot of money into.
They do. And so I'm not, you know, but I think, you know, but how do we acknowledge that the town is not what it was 10 years ago?
It's a fair comment.
Yeah.
It's fair comment.
You know, we've always built this budget on the tourists coming in. So who pays for, you know, parking every day? Well, that's somebody coming in from out of town. You know, we're in town, we're going to buy a parking pass for what, 4 months and, you know, for $175. We get a great deal and everybody else is, you know, paying $3.50 an hour to be here. So things like that, you know, most of our revenue, if you look at those streams, they all come from tourists and very little from people that live here.
Well, and if the trend continues to have fewer tourists, I mean, that's what we have to face. Everybody does. I don't know, we won't answer it here, but I do think we probably ought to have a nice list of all the knobs that we could turn. What would happen, you know, if we upped this or that license by a dollar? How much more revenue is it? You know, we could do some calculations like that just to know.
Not a problem.
But then also, I think on the flip side, are we sure, you know, and we don't have time to go line by line, but maybe, you know, where can we sharpen our pencil? Because there's a lot of stuff here where okay, maybe it's only, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 here or there, but it adds up. And are there ones where we might want to dial back, you know, the budget where I mean, you know, I don't want to go over all these things that are $3,000 and $4,000, but there's somewhere, you know, if you go from 4 to 8, okay, we're not going to really solve the problem with setting it to 6 and saving 2,000. But if we save $2,000 on, you know, on 20 lines, then it starts to, you know, to add up there. And so maybe
You already did that for us, so you guys 130 just in one line. We're good.
that's right. I did find. Well, I mean, but that's the other thing too, right? If we got the park mobile fees, if people wanted to,
Yeah.
and we said we're going to assume the transfer tax, we're to split the difference, then, you know, then we're done. But is it as simple as that? And even, and I guess what I would say is, just because we have the money, you know, and this is my, you know, personal bias, but yes, things go up every year. But if you get in a mindset where it's always going to be more, and you're never trying to like look back the other way and save, then you know that's difficult. Also, I mean, all my condo boards and stuff I've ever been on, PTO, everything. Let's raise the dues, you know, 1% every year because things will be more expensive or whatever it is. You know, are we making sure that we are continuing to look where we can shave things down? You know, are there stuff, you know, when does stuff compete? Where do we squeeze some of these expenses? And if we can help do that, if it's phone calls or whatever, you know, I think that would be the question that I would have, not just a general.
I think it's fair, but I mean, what I heard is that this is what it costs to keep the lights on.
Yep.
And to do what's right by, you know, the employees so that we can attract people. We're competitive in the labor market, right? So what I heard is that this is keep the lights on and do what we need to do to be competitive in the labor market. That's what this is.
Yep.
Right?
Looking at returning to the transfer tax, or excuse me, the accommodations tax, which is private owners renting, and then the hotel tax. That's a pretty sizable difference, almost twice. Where are we with our hotels? Do we have a limit in terms of how many hotels there may be in Dewey Beach? I knew we had that before
Yeah.
the Hyatt, and are our hotels really paying their fair share? I mean, we have people renting their homes, and they're renting. The rent revenue is twice the hotel revenue. So
They're both at 3%.
Right.
they really are. So really, we must have a lot of vacancy in hotels.
The revenue that they are reporting, that they are getting in, is down 900,000 from last year. So, and I know that the Hotel Dewey, which is across the street from Town Hall, has had vacancy all year long.
Yeah.
The
So,
rooms. Sorry.
Hotel pricing is supply and demand. I mean, when they're full, the rates stay high. When they're empty, the rates go down. I mean, so,
Right.
we want to encourage demand, but there's just, obviously there's a lot less hotel rooms than there are people that rent 4-bedroom and 3-bedroom houses out. So,
Right.
Well, the hotel room gets to the Uber argument as well. Why am I gonna, if I can, maybe the Uber is 200 to Bethany, but that's cheaper than me paying 300 for the hotel room. When there used to be cheaper hotel rooms, maybe people were making that choice.
now consider this, you got all those new homes at Spring Lake.
Mm.
And that's an easy $5 Uber ride down into Dewey. So I can rent something up there, not pay a local tax or a county tax at this point, and then take a $5 Uber. That's a lot. I can get a less expensive place to rent. It's brand new, and so we compete with surrounding towns as well, especially that unincorporated area right there, which we're surrounded by unincorporated areas.
Annex.
Just something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we've gone through expenditure reviews and, what we think may be a gap or maybe not a gap. I guess depending on where you stand on transfer tax and pass along the fees for parking.
And I think, we're about over an hour and a half into this meeting now. I'm kind of sensitive to time. I guess does anyone have any other big rock questions for now?
If we could summarize the next steps then.
Or do we want to, because I really think the next steps are, we've asked a few questions about some of the revenues, and it's, the way I put it is maybe a sensitivity analysis to what we could get out of some of these moves this year. Whether it's passing along the Park Mobile, if we raise the parking 50 cents, what does that do? What if we extend 2 weeks on either end? And I think that there's combinations of all that stuff, but we could look at that, right?
Yep. What's required to do the Park Mobile to pass through the fees?
we've got somebody, our parking supervisor is talking with Park Mobile right now, discussing the fee situation.
Right, but they do it for other municipalities, right? It's just
Yeah.
reworking the deal.
Whole country.
So, yeah.
And I don't know, and are there alternatives to Park Mobile? I don't know if any other companies
No,
do
you
it.
just earned your salary for this, right? That was good.
Well, I'm retired, I have no income, so it makes sense. Earned it all. And then I think also to sort of sharpen the pencil on some of these where maybe it's a little bit, could you be a little bit less too conservative? Again,
If you can back it by something, it has to be backed by something, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I always used to have to do budgets and then they say, well, can you do it? No. You have to argue why.
well, and I think maybe, and I don't know what we typically see at the workshop, but even if like we have this spreadsheet again, but maybe a notes column, like just a couple notes, and because the salary ones are easy, right? Because all of those those go together, right? If your salary goes up, your payroll tax, it's all percentage based, like you said. But then there's things, like cleaning,
Cleaning just went up. It will go up January 1st. She has just upped her rates for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah, so from 6,000 to 9,500.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we're not gonna balance the budget on $3,000.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, okay, so she wants to up her rate, but is there somebody else that would do it? But if she's doing a good job, so I understand all that, I get it, but there's, those are things where, maybe that's a bad example because, I understand relationships, but
Yeah, I welcome any questions, please.
okay.
I think you've done a really good job on this.
Yeah.
Excellent job. Really
Yep.
excellent.
And look forward to the one for our budget group meeting.
Yeah, workshop.
Yep.
All right. Was anybody have any more topics to bring up? Are we good with where we are today? Is there more stuff that you, Paul and Elizabeth were expecting us to do, or are we doing the right thing? Because this is my first time. John,
You're doing a great
You're
job,
the
Artie.
veteran, I should ask you, are we doing the right thing? Are there more things that we should do in preparation for Friday with this initial one, or was this, and I think this is what the intent was, to just delve into the first cut?
I think this is a great starting point.
Great.
Well, if nothing else,
Agreed.
Bill and Sheena know what questions potentially to anticipate, how to answer them.
That's right.
Try one.
No, never appreciate it. And I know how much work goes into this from not just you all, but everybody in all the departments going in and looking at specifically what it is they want. I know you made them justify everything that they asked for here and in the other, so I really appreciate your diligence and,
And at the January meeting, they will be there to answer questions.
So the police chief will be here,
Yeah.
lifeguard captain will be here.
Oh, free for all.
Parking supervisor will be here to answer specific questions that you may have.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
Fabulous.
All right, before we adjourn, do any committee members have any further comments?
Did you mention there was someone in the room? Or somebody mentioned online?
Yeah, it's somebody from the Cape Gazette.
Oh, okay,
No public comment.
okay. Nope.
All right. Well then, I guess with that, do we have a motion to adjourn for tonight?
All right, I'll do it again.
You'd love to motion to adjourn. All right.
Second.
All right, our meeting is adjourned at 6:44 PM. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good seeing everyone.
Yep.